Tantric sex is about experiencing much deeper intimacy, pleasure, and orgasm. For most people, sex is a very fleeting experience. It's there and then it's gone. As much as we all love sex, as much as most of us men crave sex, the actual experience, the actual time we spend having sex is usually very little because men are trying to rush to this point of orgasm and ejaculation. By using the principles I'm going to share in this video, you can draw out, intensify, and sustain sexual pleasure and orgasm for as long as you want, bringing much more fulfillment, much more satisfaction and pleasure for you and your partner. I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control course through the link in the video description below. One of the things that drew me into studying ancient sexual practices such as Tantra and sexual Kung Fu was a feeling that I wasn't getting all that I could get out of sex. I loved sex. I felt that orgasm was this holy spiritual experience, but at the same time, it was very unsustainable for me because all I learned to have was ejaculatory orgasms. And I found myself rushing through sexual experiences just to get to that ejaculatory orgasm, and then it was over, it was gone. And it often felt very unsatisfying. And I always wanted more. I knew that there was more to sex and more to orgasm. And that's exactly what I learned studying the tantric arts, was how to make sex an incredibly fulfilling, incredibly pleasurable experience and being able to draw out that pleasure and sustain it for as long as I want and engage in it as many times as I want. And anyone can do this. So drawing out and sustaining pleasure and orgasm is the most powerful and healing way to engage in sex and the most satisfying. So to really understand this and get deeper into this, let's go into what I call the sexual charge. We could say it's basically your arousal, your state of sexual pleasure and enjoyment. But getting deeper into that, this is really your chi, your life force, your sexual energy, what the Taoists call your Jing Qi. Also relates to nervous system energy, this information traveling through your nervous system, signals of pleasure, hormonal releases, neurotransmitter releases, all these different things happening in the body, which, you can say the physical is an aspect of the energetic and vice versa. But you can think of this sexual charge as like a tension. It's a build up of tension. Everyone has felt this in the genitals. It's like a lightning charge. Lightning is basically a friction between heaven and earth, between the ground and the sky. And when this friction reaches a certain point, there's this charge, a lightning strike. It's a dissipation. It's a release of that energy and tension. The normal path for men is to ejaculate, to release this charge. And I'm sure every man watching this knows that feeling, that arousal, that sexual desire. You long for a release to it. You burn to experience that ejaculatory release. But then what? Then it's over. How do you feel after that? You feel calm, you feel relaxed, but there's often also a sense of dissatisfaction and wanting more in men after they ejaculate. That's definitely what I always felt. So that ejaculatory release it's fine, it's okay to experience this, but only having this as your experience of sex is extremely limiting to your pleasure and your overall sexual enjoyment and experience. And most men are so focused on reaching this point of ejaculatory release that they miss out on 90% or more of what's happening during sex. They miss out on all this pleasure, all this bliss, and even all these other types of orgasms that they could be happening because they choose to simply release that charge as soon as it builds up. So when we talk about circulating energy, what we're basically doing is learning to dissipate that charge in a different way. Think of it as creating a container to hold this electrical charge, this lightning, this electrical fire. So instead of it just going outward and it's gone, it's released, you can no longer harness that or feel it, you create a container to hold that charge. And another thing here is, instead of that charge being very compressed in a small space, which for men is, the genitals, not to say your genitals are small, maybe they are, it's not my place to say, but basically we're learning to take the charge that becomes constricted to the genitals because we've been conditioned to hold it in that area, and we're giving ourselves more space by opening up the body, by opening pathways in the nervous system and the energy body for that charge to be dissipated, but still contained over a greater area, which is your entire body and even your partner's body as well. So this creates a full body charge and resonance. You're creating a circuit, giving the energy a space to recycle and build up to higher and higher levels as you allow this energy to move through your body, let it move through this container, it will build to higher and higher and higher levels of pleasure and orgasm. Levels that most people can't even imagine right now, have never experienced. If I told you that you've been experiencing like 2% of the potential pleasure you could be experiencing, it would probably interest you to go deeper into this process, right? And that's the truth of it. And another aspect of this is, instead of having this very up-down experience of sex, maximum arousal, maximum hormone neurotransmitter levels, to complete drop off below baseline, feeling that post-nut hangover, you're able to sustain everything at a certain level. So you don't get to this ridiculous high level of kind of overwhelming pleasure and dopamine release that ejaculatory orgasm causes, but you're able to sustain a generally higher level of pleasure and hormone neurotransmitter levels throughout your entire day without this massive drop off, meaning that you feel pretty good. You feel pretty charged up through your day-to-day life. You feel high from this. So by now you're probably asking, okay, that's great, I understand, but how do I do this? So being able to engage in this deep tantric level of sexual union, of sexual experience and orgasm, it requires completely changing your sexual habits, how you hold your mind, your body, and your breath during sex. See, the thing is, when we do something over and over and over again, we typically start to do it very unconsciously. It's like riding a bike. The first time you did it, you had to be paying very strong attention to everything that was happening. And now you could probably ride a bike down the street while looking at your phone and eating a sandwich. You develop subconscious patterns of how to do it, so you don't have to think about it anymore. But this works unfavorably for most people during sex, especially men. They don't realize that they're tensing up their body. They're disconnected from the present moment. They're often up in their head. Maybe they're fantasizing. They're thinking about other things. They're just trying to reach this level of ejaculatory orgasm, thinking, yeah, this is okay, but I want to feel an orgasm. I want more. So they're projecting into the future, disconnected from what's happening in the now. Basically, people are not very embodied during sex. And because of that, they're experiencing a fraction of the pleasure they could be. It's a process of basically bringing more awareness into everything that you're doing, bringing awareness to your breath, breathing deeply and smoothly from the belly as a container to hold this higher level of energy and pleasure and let it move through you like ocean waves, learning to relax the extraneous tension you've been holding onto in your body, learning to relax your mind, getting out of the realm of monkey mind and excessive thinking and to be in pure presence. It truly is a yoga. It's an intertwining of your mind, your body, and your spirit. And bringing that into sex is a fucking powerful experience. Very intensely pleasurable. And this allows you to feel deeply into every single sensation, every moment, every bit of pleasure, feeling the eroticism of it all. And as a man, you learn to experience intense pleasure and intense levels of orgasm without ejaculating, without it coming to a screeching halt because you've blown your load. You're able to control if and when you're going to ejaculate. So basically, it's important that you learn how to breathe. Keep your breath smooth and deep throughout the process. Remember that the breath is the container and it's the anchor for your mind and your energy. When you lose the breath, when you get into shallow chest breathing, which is what most men do during arousal, it's game over. It's climb up towards ejaculation. So as soon as you've lost your breathing, you've lost your mental control as well. So practice breathing. It's the simplest of the simple. Practice releasing tension from your body. There's a tendency to squeeze and constrict the muscles of the body as if you're trying to squeeze more pleasure, but it does the opposite. It blocks pleasure from moving through your body, and specifically squeezing the pelvic floor muscles, which unfortunately a lot of teachers encourage you to do. It blocks the energy in your genitals and it strengthens a stress response to sexual stimulation, bringing you closer towards ejaculation. So practice releasing any bit of tension in the body. When you're breathing deeply at the same time, you'll be amazed how that alone amplifies the pleasure and the orgasmic experience that you're feeling. And another thing to practice is being completely centered in the moment, not being stuck in your head, but holding pure presence in the here and now. And the breathing and the relaxation of tension in the body helps you to do this. But here's another exercise you can use is think of penetrating your partner with your awareness through your eyes, having an intense gaze, sending your masculine energy into your partner's body, penetrating them deeply with your presence. Fuck them with your eyes, and then you can truly fuck them with your cock. And so these are some practical things you can use right away. And if you really implement them, they will dramatically improve your experience of sexual pleasure. and presence during sex. But the most important stages of development come from the sexual kung fu system, where basically you start to rewire your mind, your body, your nervous system. You could say upgrade your nervous system and your energy body by opening the energy channels, by creating new pathways so that the energy has space to move. So you're creating your container so that that little spark stuck in your genitals can become this full body lightning storm of sexual pleasure. And the ways we do that in the sexual kung fu system is Qigong practices, meditation, yoga practices, breath work. So you implement these tools as a daily practice. I mean, even 15 or 20 minutes a day is gonna have significant results. Is 15 minutes a day worth it to you to have dramatically intense sexual experiences and complete ejaculation control? It is for me. Of course, I do 3 hours a day. And by doing these practices, by doing the sexual kung fu exercises, these train foundational qualities in your body and your mind, so that once you get into sex, it's more natural just to get right into this deep tantric experience I'm talking about. So it's like the daily practice. It's like in martial arts. You do these drills, you learn the basic techniques so that when you jump into a fight, you have something to work with and you already have that neural network built of how you hold yourself in the situation. It's the same thing with sex. When you do Qigong, when you learn how to open up the energy channels, get into a relaxed and focused state of Qi flow, it becomes effortless to get into that same open flow state during sex. And boom, you're off to the races. Opening the channels through the Qigong practices helps you to have space for the energy to move. So you have this pathway set up, and then you use the mind during sex to guide it through the body so that sexual energy starts to move in a different way other than wanting to move out your genitals. And in the beginning, it requires a bit more force. It requires a very strong effort and willpower. But with practice, it becomes natural to where you're simply breathing deeply, holding your presence, feeling the sexual pleasure, and it's naturally moving through your channels. And this is where it becomes unbelievably powerful, intense, pleasurable. Sex of your dreams, basically. Better sex than your ancestors have had. And at a more advanced level, of course, the main pathway we use in sexual kung fu is the microcosmic orbit. This pathway up the back of the body, down the front of the body. But it's not the only pathway. It's the easiest one to start working with, but in reality, there's many other energy channels. You can work with the 8 extraordinary meridians, which microcosmic orbit is part of, thrusting channels that go up and down the left and right side of the body, the Sushumna central channel, arm and leg channels. And really my experience has been that with practice, it becomes less like, okay, this specific energy channel, this specific, I'm trying to get to this chakra. Eventually, when you build your chi, your system becomes so saturated that instead of like these individual rivers, it just becomes a flood. Your whole body's an ocean of chi, and just by moving your mind, bringing your awareness into a certain area of your body, the energy moves there. And of course, this becomes very beneficial for lovemaking, because one of the most powerful aspects of these practices is being able to consciously send your sexual energy into your partner's body and absorb their energy into yours. It becomes an exchange. It becomes a way to build up to these powerful states of full body non-ejaculatory orgasm. It's very healing. It's very intimate. It's very bonding, and it leads to incredibly powerful cosmic orgasm experiences that are better than any drug you can take, any psychedelic ayahuasca experience. And it's all organic, all natural, baby. You have the tools, you have the keys to the car. And last thing I want to share on this is that people often ask me, does tantric sex always have to be very, very slow and boring? And the truth is no. Initially, you will probably need to move a bit slower to get a feel for this, but when you develop a skill, you can go to Pound Town, baby. You can be fucking as hard as you want, using all these practices, implementing what I've talked about, and have a very powerful tantric orgasm experience. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in this and you want to go all in on learning how to become a tantric sex master, definitely start with my free ejaculation control course. There's some really powerful techniques in there. And if you're ready to dive into the sexual kung fu system, follow the link in the description of this video to see what's next. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel. Have a great day, my friends.